Chair will now recognize Mr. O'Rourke for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to commend you for your focus on issues of accountability, especially when it comes to purchasing and contracting within DHS. I feel that when it comes to technology solutions, we can become enamored of quick fixes, blinded by the difficulty of understanding the specifics involved, and when we have the kind of blunders that it seems that the GAO has uncovered here, the boondoggles like SBInet that you pointed to, as a whole, as a body, Congress, I think, oftentimes turns a blind eye. So I really appreciate the focus, the attention, and the drive for accountability. And I also want to refer to the numbers that you gave us, $250 million for CBP's 5-step program, only one of those steps has been achieved. You mentioned $60 million earlier, $20 million on the Raytheon mistake with the text mod, where we're cutting 75% or 70% of the requirements, had delays of nearly a year, and are having to redesign from the beginning the whole process. You compare those numbers to $140,000, which is what it costs to fully train, hire, and move a CBP officer to where he will be employed. That officer will contribute nearly $2 million to the economy, will help create 22 additional jobs in the U.S. economy throughout every state in the Union. And so while I certainly understand, as Mr. Armstrong said, the time savings that we might be able to see if we can successfully implement some of these technology initiatives, and I certainly want us to do that, I also think that we have some much lower hanging fruit, including spending and deploying those assets much more wisely. And I would start with our human assets, those CBP officers who have some of the most dangerous, difficult, and most critically important jobs when it comes to our economy, the safety and security of our country. And I'd urge CBP and DHS to focus more attention on that. To Mr. Powner, we mentioned SBInet, which really seemed like a contractors gone wild episode, where Boeing is designing the scope of the project. They're responsible for defining the milestones and the measurements, and we saw, hundreds of millions of dollars later that we had a system that we could not use, that was a waste of taxpayer money, and that we had to scrap completely. We looked at the Raytheon Tex Mod project begun in September of 2011, delay of 7 months, 70% of the requirements were removed from the project, and $20 million later, it sounds like we're starting over again. Do we have, and you mentioned a deficiency in your opening statement of core case management and development. Is there some kind of brain drain within the federal government that does not allow us to properly manage these projects? Should we be doing more of this in-house and not allowing the Boeings and the Raytheons of the world to design these projects, and should we be doing more of that work in-house? And then when it comes to actually implementing, programming, testing, holding to account those who are working on this, should we be doing more of that in-house as well?
Well, there's very few pockets in the federal government that can do a lot of this in terms of the development. There are limited pockets. I know I'll give you IRS as one example. They have pockets where they do their own development, but we contract this out. I think the key is there are responsibilities that the government has and responsibilities that contractors have. In the requirement setting process, let's start with that. That is a responsibility of the federal government to define what we want. And too often with a lot of these programs, you're absolutely right, Representative O'Rourke, that we have contractors get involved in defining how we're going to do things. So that we need a real clear line of delineation there. And I think these two gentlemen are getting, that's actually improving with both these programs. That's very important. Then once we get those contracts in place, the contractor oversight that needs to occur needs to be rigorous. We need to know what's being delivered in terms of productivity and quality. And a lot of these programs, when you go in and you ask, is the contractor delivering, how's the quality and productivity, we don't get the right answers from the government when we look at it. That's where I would say these executive steering committees are very important in ensuring that we have the appropriate contractor oversight. We're holding contractors' feet to the fire. I would say on both these programs, in addition to our recommendations, one very important thing is we're in the process of putting contractors in place on both programs. I believe the ICE program has an award date for this summer, and I believe that's the same with CBP. It's very important that we get those contractors in place, the right contractors, as soon as we possibly can so that we can make progress.
And Mr. Armstrong and Mr. Michelli have done a good job of walking us and taking us through process improvements, oversight committees, means by which we're sharing information across silos. But given SBInet, given what we've just described from the members of the committee and what we read in the GAO report, what's going to give me confidence in terms of the human resources that we have within DHS, that we're not going to have a repeat of these problems going forward? In other words, do we have the right structure, the right line of accountability within DHS to ensure that we don't have this again, either within ICE or CBP or some other aspect of DHS? And I'm out of time, so I'll ask Mr. Armstrong and Mr. Michelli to just very quickly address that question.
Well, I would say at the current staffing level, I feel confident that we can provide the correct oversight on the program. I think what concerns me, and part of why I'm still here in the government, is the budget issues that are going on today across the government, and the desire to kind of start to downsize some of these mission support areas in order to save money. So what I can't speak to is what's going to happen in the following years in terms of staffing and our ability to replace people as they retire and go on to other things in their life. I will tell you that a large part of my staff, more than I'd like, is retirement eligible. They stick around because they enjoy the work that they do, and they feel like the value they deliver to those frontline officers is very important to them. But that is going to soon come to an end because they can't stay around forever. So our ability to attract and bring new talent into the government, to be able to pick up with the new technologies, greatly concerns me.
You know, Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, point well taken that when we have the sequester, when we have government shutdowns, we're not allocating resources wisely. It affects you and your ability to retain the best and brightest within your organizations. But I'll also note that since 1986, we've seen a 1,400% increase in spending on border security solutions. So when we look at SBInet, when we look at TextMod, when we look at a potential biometric exit system, I understand that we need to resource appropriately from the congressional level, but at the same time, you have unparalleled, unprecedented resources at your disposal today. Maybe what we're both saying is that more of that could be spent on our human resources, on the talent that we have there, recruiting and retaining, and less on flashy new ideas like SBInet, like a biometric exit system, when our greatest single asset is the people who protect our borders, serve the trade and the crossers coming across, and potentially design and oversee these systems that we're talking about. Mr. Michelli, any thoughts on that?
Yes, and ICE, after day-to-day mission, cybersecurity, and public officer safety, ICE TextMod is the #1 priority, and we're putting our best and brightest on TextMod. When we did the requirements refinement in our ESC, which has an HSI, Homeland Security Investigator chair, realized that we could use additional help. He's put his best and brightest on the project as well. I do have concerns as we progress into a commercial off-the-shelf program that we have the right technical skills for oversight for that. So as part of the contract action, we have gone out and with an FFRDC to get that expertise in-house. So we'll have that technical oversight. So I believe we are staged to have the right human skills, both on the technical side and on the mission side, to have success.
I hope so. We need to make sure that that's the case. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great questioning. And before I recognize the gentlelady from Texas,